Hey everyone, the name is Eric Dorn. In today's video, we're talking about whether that ADHD label is perhaps just a personality type. And in this video, I'm going to show you that actually ADHD is not just a personality type. It is something different. Okay, so first and foremost, the MBTI typically tracks 16 personality types. And one of the most interesting parts of the MBTI is their dichotomy of judging and perceiving. Somewhat correlated to the big five idea of conscientiousness, judging types tend to be organized and they tend to pursue tasks in a linear fashion. They tend to be more left brain oriented, you could say, in the sense that they tend to approach tasks more systematically. They tend to have a higher level of discipline and a higher level of focus, and they make decisions more easily and more quickly than other personality types in the Myers-Briggs spectrum, right? On the other hand, perceiving types tend to talk about things in a more open-ended fashion. Instead of pursuing tasks linearly, they tend to switch tasks very quickly. And the perceiving types enjoy more variety. Instead of organizing their approach and workflow, they prefer to keep things open. Instead of making decisions, they tend to make more smaller-ended decisions that they can change more easily, right? So what we see here is two different approaches to solving problems and engaging in tasks. One works through a to-do list from step 1 to step 10 in a sequential order. One can start with maybe the 5 and then jump to the 10 and then go to the 2 and then go to the 7 and prefers to just go from task to task. One prefers long-term goals and long-term projects, and one prefers short-term tasks. Yeah, perhaps the biggest distinction for judging and perceiving is that the judging types, they are slower to take in and start up new tasks. And on top of that, they tend to retain an interest and attention in a task for a longer amount of time. So if you tell a judging type about a new thing mid-project, they'll more likely tell you, no, I don't have time. I have to first do this task. If you talk to a perceiving type about a new thing, they might say, hey, okay, that sounds great. And then they'll drop everything else and they'll start with that thing first. So in that sense, you'll see that perceiving types are more adaptable. They work better in a fast-paced and changing environment where you have to be responsive to what's happening in the moment. Yeah, if you have a very important client in the cafe that really needs some product to be delivered on a certain time, well, you should probably not be eating bread. You should probably go out and help that customer, right? So these are the kind of things that you might notice when it comes to judging and perceiving. Now, when you study personality types, you talk about healthy differences in a person's personality, right? So in that sense, all the personalities in the Myers-Briggs type indicator are healthy variations. A person can have a higher or lower amount of conscientiousness in a sense that they might be more focused, more disciplined, more diligent, or more adaptable, more flexible, and more spontaneous. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a better or worse person, right? In that sense, when we talk about ADHD, once again, ADHD does not mean that you're a better or worse person, but ADHD does come with bigger sets of problems and drawbacks than being simply a perceiving or a judging personality type, right? So what we want to talk about here is that really, when you have ADHD, typically people with ADHD can show a lot of struggles growing up in school and with relationships and with forming long-term relationships with others and with learning to manage their attention and functioning. And this is beyond just a personal variation or a cute twist, right? This is something that can cause severe issues and struggles. And in that case, a lot of the time, people with ADHD need the help of psychologists or trained or qualified professionals or special tools in order to be able to succeed and manage the drawbacks of this ability, right? So in that sense, yes, I tend to say that ADHD is a form of ability. I tend to say it's a form of asynchronous development. And when we have certain personality traits or certain skills or cognitive functions more developed than others, we talk about asynchronous development, which is, certain parts of your brain are overdeveloped relative to other parts of your brain. And this overdeveloped part is sending so many signals to this underdeveloped part that the underdeveloped part is not able to keep up. Think of, with ADHD, you can say it's like this. A person with ADHD has this underpaid intern secretary hanging out in this left brain, and this person has to make all the decisions, has to organize everything, has to plan out your day, has to organize your calendar and all those things, right? And the other part of your brain This part of your brain, well, it's basically a superstar, like this part of your brain is so fast, is so engaged, is so interested, is so curious, it wants to go out and explore, it wants to learn new things, it brainstorms, it comes up with new ideas, it sees new opportunities, it sees new possibilities, right? So it's taking in a lot of new information and it's getting a lot of different associations and it's coming up with a lot of ideas. And it's sending all those ideas to the left brain, to this executive function component of the brain. And it's saying, help me organize this. And the secretary is looking at this huge pile of paper and going like, I have no idea where to start. Where do I even begin? So that's often what's happening in the sense of ADHD. So in this case, yeah, it can lead to a lot of problems. And that's something that's very important to talk about in school. And a lot of people are resistant to talking about ADHD in school and think, we shouldn't use medical interventions. We shouldn't do anything. We should just, let people be kids, things like that. And here it's like, we should help these kids develop because obviously, these kids have everything to earn from having a more balanced brain and from getting the tools and every aid possible. Of course, these kids want to be able to do these things, right? So it's not, just the personality type, right? Now, the reason why I bring up the MBTI is really because the MBTI often correlates to this idea of ADHD. And a lot of people in the Myers-Briggs community often wonder whether they might have ADHD. And specifically, perceiving types tend to often wonder whether they have ADHD, right? So when it comes to perceiving, what I mentioned before was the perceiving types tend to be more adaptable and they tend to be more quick to take in new tasks, right? So often they're more interested in things that are new and they are less interested in things that are old, right? And you can think of it as kind of the refresh rate of your working memory, right? So judging types have a slower refresh and completion date for the working memory tasks, right? So imagine you have 7 items in your to-do list. And that's your working memory, right? Your mental working memory. It has these 7 things it needs to get done. Well, judging types, they are slow to add new items to the list. If a new item comes up, they just throw it in the trash bin. They don't have the energy or attention to focus on or even recognize that task has to be done. They don't even see it most of the time, right? Perceiving types, they see it. They keep exploring. They keep adding new things to the list, right? So to do that, to make room for that in the working memory, they have to throw something out. So they throw something else out. So often they lose interest and they lose energy and they lose attention for a task the longer it takes. And so typically that's the case of the perceiving type. They will get rid of all tasks that are taking too long to focus on quick tasks that are easier to complete. Now, it's very possible that you are a perceiving type with ADHD, but you could also be a judging type with issues regulating attention. And often, if, for example, you have a lower than average working memory, perhaps, some people can only hold 3 items in their to-do list, while others the average person can hold 7. And the person that's really good at it can hold maybe 10 or 12, right? Well, in that case, if you have like a 3 in working memory, well, what can happen is, you might show a lot of issues in terms of regulating your attention. You might forget things. You might displace things in your room. You might lose things more easily. You might struggle to keep up in conversations when there's multiple topics going on in a discussion. You might be unwilling to join in, or you might find it hard to think or clarify your thoughts. And when you start talking about something, these are things that can happen, right? So the most important thing you have to really remember when it thinks about, am I just a perceiving type and are these just normal and healthy variations, or is it a form of ADHD? Well, the first question is, does this cause you severe issues in life, right? Does it cause you problems in school? Has it been a recurring issue in relationships? Has it led to consistent problems with employers or at work, right? Like if you find that this is a pattern and it's something that you need help with, there's nothing wrong with asking for help with that and looking into that. And some things can be solved just by quick coaching. And if you find that it's, a simple, YouTube video on getting organized and a simple set of tricks and tips can fix most of your problems, well, great. Most likely then it's just a smaller difference or a smaller discrepancy. But if you find that you're not able to resolve it, even by focusing on it and working and giving it your best effort, well, in that case, definitely consider going for help and asking for support.